नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, संघं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि, तृतीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, तृतीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, तृतीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि। पाणातिपाता वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि अदिन्यदाना वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि कामे सुमिच्छाचारा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि मूसावादा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि सुरामेरयमज्जपमादठाणा वेरमणि सिक्खापदं समाधियामि सब्बपापस्य अकरणं कुशलस्य उपसम्पदा सचित्तपर्योदपणम् एतं बुद्धान् शासनम् साधु साधु साधु।
Well, meditation is, in a way, is simply about learning how to be fully with your life. It's we think of meditation as, say, sitting down with our eyes closed and feelings of people around us while we have to stay at home together? This is a question that's been brought up a few times, and it's a very serious issue. As I've mentioned over the last few weeks, the instances of domestic violence have increased quite radically, 20 or 30% in this country, because of people being in lockdown together. So that it's a very serious issue and a great concern. People get frustrated, they lose their temper, and they take it out on the people who are close to them. So that this is something that needs a sort of consideration and negotiation. Depends a bit on your living situation. I think dealing with other people's negative emotions, it depends on what they're like, how open they might be to feedback. But also, I feel that there's ways that you can create more space for yourselves within a living situation. So coming to agreements to say, okay, I'd like to be by myself for so many hours of the day, or can I have an hour of alone time in the back bedroom, or while you're watching TV, I'm just going to be by myself. Can we agree that you're not going to interrupt? And discussing with each other to try and come to agreements whereby you can give each other space, and feeling that you can do that. That in a sense, it's acknowledging, well, we're all in this together. We're sort of locked up in this say contained situation. So how can we use this space in a way that is fair and is going to be supportive to all of us? So I think finding alone time, either through agreements with your partner or your families to the extent possible. Also, just finding times of day when you can be awake and by yourself, finding some kaya viveka, some physical seclusion, often getting up earlier in the morning than other people in your home. So if you get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, often you have an hour or a couple of hours before there's any other movement in the home. So that if you really want to have an hour or two of alone time, and the rest of the family is not very compliant, or not very say helpful in setting up agreements to spend time apart from each other within the home, then see if you can structure the day so you get up earlier in the morning. In terms of attitude, then there's a very helpful teaching that the Buddha gave to his son, Rahula, where he encourages a kind of meditation on the four elements. The four elements, so in our Buddhist, actually it's the five elements in that sutta. So that the usual four elements, the Mahadhatu, represent the four qualities of matter. So there's earth, water, fire, and wind. So earth represents solidity, or the crystal structure, the physical form of matter. And then water represents cohesion, or that which holds matter together, the kind of not just the fluid nature of it, but also the quality of cohesion. Then fire represents heat, temperature of matter, and life force also. And then wind represents vibration. So even in terms of modern day physics, you can say all matter has a crystal structure, has fluidity, it has temperature, and has the quality of vibration. So that this is not sort of outside the laws of modern day physics. And anyway, so that the Buddha gives this advice to Rahula. He says, Rahula, be like the earth. So if you say, bring the quality of earth, patavi dhatu, the earth element to mind, then when unpleasant or difficult sensations are felt, then you're like the earth. You don't react. You're patient. You're say non-reactive in that way. Or if cruel or unkind, unpleasant things are said, like the earth doesn't complain if someone swears at it or someone insults it, or then the earth is just the earth. It's not bothered by people being, rude about its color or its shape or how much it weighs. It's just the earth. And similarly, be like water. Just as water is not offended, it's not upset when different things are put into it, or there is boiled, or has dye put into it. It's just the water is untroubled and unruffled, undisturbed by that. Be like fire. Fire doesn't object whether you burn paper or wood or grass or whatever. Fire just burns. It's not biased. It's not partial. Be like the wind. Be like the air. The air doesn't mind whether there's a cloud or it's clear, whether there's starshine or moonshine or sunshine, whether there's smoke passing through the air. The air is untroubled, is undisturbed by that. Of course, if you translate that into ecological concerns, you might say, well, there's a lot of pollution in the earth and in the water. This is a visualization exercise, and it's to do with patience and to do with, say, revisioning what you are. And so these physical bodies are in part of our reflections on our life and on our living situation, to look upon our bodies rather than just being male or female, old or young, heavy or light, tall or short, healthy or unhealthy, to see these bodies as earth, water, fire, and wind. Just seeing ourselves as the four elements, to depersonalize, to say, help dissolve the habits of self-view. And so that it's the Buddha's using this as advice to his son Rahula, when he was a novice, to train himself to be patient, to be, say, not reacting to praise and criticism, gain and loss, comfort and discomfort. So I feel that when people are projecting negative feelings towards you, or getting angry with you, or getting upset, or shouting at the television or the computer, or swearing at the vacuum cleaner because it won't obey, as we do, we can kind of get very upset with labor-saving devices when they don't work or do what we want them to. That say visualization or that recollection, or just to say, as this person's getting upset with you or getting caught up in an emotion, just to bring that to mind. Be like the earth, be like water, be like wind, be like fire. Just let it wash through you. You don't have to be disturbed. You don't have to be reactive. You can be patient. You can be as unbiased and hula, be like space. Because space doesn't object. Space is spacious for everything. Whether it's a small object or a large object, whether it's beautiful or ugly, space contains everything. So be like space. So it's a way of bringing to mind the habits of being partial or being particular. I can accept this, I can't accept that, I can deal with this, I can't deal with that. Just having that reminder, be like space. Can you just be like the space in the room that just lets anybody walk through it? How many of us have arrived in a doorway and then the space in the room has said, no, you can't come in, go away. Don't, Nidaro, go away, I don't like you. It doesn't do that, does it? It's ridiculous. It's like, doesn't say, I choose to allow this person into the room, but that other person can't come in. It's like, no, you just, this is spacious for everybody, for all things. So it's a way of looking at our reactive patterns and to give a little bit more room to be, say, training the heart to be responsive rather than reactive. Maybe a last thing to share that I like to, maybe it's not very helpful, but with respect to handling negative feelings of other people, is that in Buddhist psychology, you're not sane until you are an arahant. So if the other people in your household are not fully enlightened beings, then this is, in Buddhist psychology, this is comparable to living on a psychiatric ward. So that if you think of yourself, if I think of Amaravati as a psychiatric ward, that and I find myself far more accommodating to my fellow patients. And seriously, I think again, it's like rejigging your way of seeing each other. And if you were on a psychiatric ward and one of the other fellow patients was getting upset or getting excited or getting angry and getting fearful, then you're much more ready to say deal with their kind of erratic and agitated states, because the mind says, oh, this person's crazy. We're in a psychiatric ward. Of course, people's behavior is irresponsible or uncontrolled, or it's not going to be helpful or sensitive because they're crazy. And again, I'm not trying to be dismissive about psychiatric difficulties, in the general Western sense, but again, if Master Rahula revision, we can change the way that we name what's going on. We can revision our experience. It goes a long way to being able to get along with each other. I remember many years ago when we had a community retreat here at Amaravati, and Lumpur Sumedho was teaching, and he was reflecting on the term that we repeated every day in the chanting, a punya keta, a field of merit. So he brought up the suggestion. He said, rather than thinking, oh, this is Sister Nyanasiri or Anagarika Noriko or someone near Chitasangwaro, Tan Nidaro, Tan Manunyo, we kind of name each other. We label each other. Oh, I know this one well. I don't know that one well. Or she's my friend. He's not my friend. He said, rather than thinking of the people that you know or you don't know, how you admire them or you don't admire them, just to see each other as fields of merit. And actually, our robes are sewn in the pattern of paddy fields, the paddy fields of Magadha in northeast India, and also representing that sense of the robe is a field of merit. So rather than seeing each other in terms of gender or personality or like or dislike or approve or disapprove, to see each other as fields of merit. And it had a very profound effect. He just dropped it in as a suggestion in a Dhamma talk. And you could tell how there was a certain sort of looking around the room, like, right, how we don't do that. We see each other in terms of personality and what we approve of or disapprove of, what we like, what we don't like, what's familiar, what's not familiar. But rather than seeing each other in terms of personality, we can see that each of these blobs, the kind of human, collective, these collections of elements called human beings, these are fields of merit. They are places where skillful qualities can be planted and can be cultivated and can grow. And then it really changes the way you see each other. And it did have a profound effect. I remember, it was a long time ago now, and more than 30 years ago. But it had a profound effect on the community. It's like, oh my goodness. And we can see each other in different ways if we make the effort. attention on our breath, or walking backwards and forwards on a path, watching our footsteps. So those are what we would call formal meditation practices. But meditation is much broader, and its purpose is much broader. So many years ago, this European researcher came to visit Ajahn Chah, our teacher, in Wat Nong Bapong in Ubon province. And he was asking all these different gurus and meditation teachers, 3 questions. Why do you meditate? How do you meditate? And what's the result of your meditation? And Ajahn Chah, he was quite amused by this very serious intellectual approach. And he kind of gave the researcher a bad time. But eventually, he kind of teased him a bit in his usual way. But eventually, he said, well, I want to ask you 3 questions in return. Why do you eat? How do you eat? And what's the result of having eaten? And the researcher was offended. What do you mean? I'm asking you a serious question and you're making fun of me. And Ajahn Chah said, no, I'm not. Because meditation is food for the heart, is food for the mind. And so you might think of meditation as some kind of optional extra to life. But if you really want to be alive, then you need to pay attention to your life. You need to be there for it. And meditation is simply showing up for your own life, paying attention to what you feel, what you think, what you like, what you dislike, your relationships, your perceptions of the world, the way you work, all of this, all these different dimensions of our existence. Meditation is about learning to watch, learning to listen, learning to see where our mental habits create problems, attaching to like and dislike, believing in opinions, following desires and fears and aversions in an unconscious way. The more that we pay attention to our life and our mind and how the mind functions with the world, the more we're able to live in tune with things. And this is what you can call food for the heart, or what really nourishes us as a human being. So he said to this gentleman, I'm not making fun of you. Well, not completely. I'm not making fun of you. But I ask these questions because meditation is as essential to life, really, to being really alive, as food is for keeping the body alive. And the Buddha said, mindfulness is the path to the deathless, to the amata dhamma. Heedlessness is the path to death. The mindful never die. The heedless are as if dead already. So that's quite a strident thing to say, quite a emphatic, strong statement. And so people wonder, well, what does he mean? He say, if you're mindful, does it mean that your body's never going to die? But no. What it means is, if you're mindful, if you're fully aware, then the mind doesn't get identified with all of the risings and passings away, the beginnings and endings, the births and deaths, successes and failures, gains and losses, loves and hates. That the heart is open and is free in relationship to all of the comings and goings of life. So in a sense, he said, the mindful do not die. It's like the mindful, their hearts are open to all things. They're free from attachment to birth and death, as we would say in Buddhism, but they're free from attachment to being praised, being criticized, being rich, being poor, being happy or being unhappy. If you're wise, you can feel, a strong sense of grief. Just yesterday, someone was asking this question at a Dhamma talk. You can feel grief. Say that your mother's died or your father's died. You can have tears running down your face, feeling the sadness of your mother dying, but you can be completely at peace at the same time. It's a sad feeling. The tears are running, but you're absolutely okay. And to our thinking mind, you're like, well, that's impossible. Either you're really upset, like, oh, my mother's died, or you're really cold, like, I don't care. All sankharas arise and pass away, But it's not. It's the middle way is where we feel emotion, we feel happiness or excitement, we feel fear or like and dislike, we feel grief. But the heart is completely aware of them and unentangled in them and not identified with them. So that when we are, say, developing mindfulness or anyway, full heartfulness, or when the heart is full of the present moment, the mind is full of the present moment, then, as the Buddha put it, we're really alive. And then to say the heedless are as if dead already. And the Thai word pramat means crazy, like drunk or crazy. Pramat, that comes from the Pali pamada. So he said that those who are pamada are as if dead already. It's like your body might be breathing and you might be moving around. You might have a high-powered job, but if you're heedless, you're as good as dead. You're not really there for your own life. You're with someone, but you don't see them. You just see your own projections about them. Is the guy attractive? Is he not attractive? Is he rich? What can I get from him? What does he want to get from me? Am I more handsome than he is? Or is he more handsome than I am? That you're not seeing the other person. You're filled with your own fears and projections. Even as a monk, you can have this kind of, is that person, have they got a higher rank than me? Are they not? Is their meditation better than mine? Or my meditation's better than him? I'm being interviewed by a TV program. I'm more special than that monk who's not being interviewed. Look at me. Then if our mind is heedless and filled with self-centered thinking, then you're not really alive. If you believe in those thoughts and invest in them, you're as good as dead, according to the Buddha's estimation. So meditation then is, we use the exercises like mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of walking, metta bhavana, loving kindness meditation. Those are all, say, particular methods that we can use in order to help bring our attention to the present moment. And then vipassana, loving kindness meditation, helps us to have an attitude of what I call radical acceptance, so that the heart is open to everything. It does not contend against anything. That there's the heart of metta recognizes that everything belongs, even that difficult person, they belong. That person who just took the best parking place in the car park, and I have to go and drive around and around and around to find another parking place. Even that guy, I can have loving kindness for. To have loving kindness for the pains in your body, or the say repetitive, obsessive thought. You can have loving kindness even for your own anger. Not that you like it or that you are glad that it's there, but you recognize anger is part of nature. An obsessive thought is part of nature. Somebody's got to get the good parking space. Why shouldn't it be that guy instead of me? Why not? Sometimes I get the good parking spaces, sometimes I don't. That's the way nature works. So loving kindness, metta, is to recognize everything belongs. Everything is part of nature, mental, physical. So metta bhavana helps us to develop that heart that is wide, broad, and open. Then, say, concentration practices like mindfulness of breathing, or the mantra buddho, or walking meditation, they help to train the attention to stay with the present moment. Also mindfulness of the body that I was talking about before, that helps us to keep the attention trained in the present moment. And then vipassana meditation, which we call insight meditation in English, that enables the mind to explore the very nature of experience, how, say, the perception of this moment is put together. So in terms of vipassana insight, I would say right now there is sight, sound. I can see you, I can see the cameras, I can see the floor, the lights. I hear the sound of my voice, the sound. There's the purring of the air conditioner, and there's the other sounds in the room. The builders working next door. I'm feeling relieved that they're not drilling like they were yesterday. So there's the awareness of emotion and thinking, taste, smell, touch. This moment is put together in the mind. You might say, here we are sitting in Dhammaram on Sukhumvit Soi Klang, but also this experience is happening in your mind, in my mind. My mind puts together from sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, thinking, memory, imagination, the language I speak, it puts together the world in this particular way. It takes these perceptions. So vipassana helps us to recognize, oh, this perception that is apparent here in this moment, this is put together, it's compounded. And this feeling of I as the experiencer, that too is something that's put together, that we are able to say there's seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, but also it helps us to recognize that, well, calling this me, the monk, speaking, or me, Ajahn Amaro, speaking, or this is my accent or my voice. When you, with vipassana, when you explore, well, I say this is mine, but who's the me? What is that me that is the owner? What does that look like? That which experiences a human body, this human life. Is that human? Is that a person? Is the mind that is aware, is awareness? Is it male? Is it female? Is it tall? Is it short? Is it English? Is it Thai? Is it American? Does it have a shape? Does it have any form at all? Does form apply? So vipassana helps us to explore the very structure of experience, how the mind puts together its world, moment by moment. And then in seeing how things are put together, it learns to recognize them, trains the mind to see the world in a different way. Because when we recognize that this is my version of the world, it's not the world, then if the more that's recognized here, the more I recognize, well, of course, other people are going to see things differently. Just because I see something and I say, oh, that's beautiful, doesn't mean that somebody else will say the same thing. When we don't see clearly, when there isn't wisdom, then we believe our opinions and our thoughts. So if I say, that's beautiful, and you say, oh, no, it's ugly, then I just assume you're wrong, or you're stupid, you have bad taste. Because if I think it, it must be right. That's the way we work as human beings. If I think it, it's true. If somebody else thinks different, they're wrong. If we have no wisdom, that's how we see the world. And that my nationality is the best. My language is the best. My favorite foods are really good. And other people's foods are kind of weird and not as good. So that's how we are when we're attached. So vipassana meditation helps us to see, well, that's just a personal impression. How could that be true for everyone? And the more we recognize what I experience is just my version of the world, the more it helps us to have compassion, kindness towards others, because why should my version of the world be the only real one? Why should this be the one reliable one? Why should I be the one person whose opinions are all correct in accordance with reality? What about everybody else? So when we develop insight, wisdom, it helps us to be more harmonious, to fit in with other people, because we are able to have, say, respect and gratitude for what others do, what they contribute, to have compassion and to have kindness, and say to appreciate that the opinions, the views, the experiences of others are equally valid, equally, say, important as my own. So that in terms of the how can meditation help, I would say it's meditation that's based on mindfulness, meditation that's based on living skillfully, like living according to the, say, the humanitarian values of honesty and respect. But in Buddhism, we would say the 5 precepts, that if meditation is based on the 5 precepts, when it's based on bringing attention to the present moment, and it's based on letting go of self-centered habits, then it's definitely going to be of benefit to a person's life. Whether they call themselves a Buddhist or not is immaterial. Like at Amaravati Monastery, where I live in England, we have a weekly meditation class. We have people, Buddhist people, Christian people, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, people who are determined to be not religious at all, but are very dedicated meditators. I'm not a Buddhist, but you come here every week. You come here every week for 30 years. Yeah, but I'm not a Buddhist. They don't want to identify with a label, but they love to practice meditation. So these kind of methods and developing these skills is really just as a human being helping us to show up for our own life and to be, and the more we're able to show up, then the more we're able to be, say, engaged and able to use the capacities, the abilities that we have. In one of the John Lennon songs, he said, and he was misquoting Samuel Johnson from the 300 years ago, but he said, life is something that happens while we're making other plans. So we miss our life because we're so busy planning for something else that we're going to do. So we miss this because we're so interested in that. And so we miss our own life because we're busy either reminiscing about the past or planning the future. So the present is lost to us. And the present is the only place where we can really be fulfilled. It's the only place where we can be completely free and completely happy. So the more that we pay attention to the present, the more that we can be free and the more that we can be happy. Absolutely. And that's what, so Ajahn Chah would ask people when they'd say, oh, Lumpur, I haven't got time to meditate. I've got 5 kids and I have to work and the animals he's looking after, I've got no time to meditate. And he would say, do you have time to breathe? And they said, well, yeah, of course. They said, well, you've got time to meditate then. So basically, if you're alive, then you have time to meditate. And he spent about 40 years explaining these principles. And I feel it's a very helpful teaching for the world. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, he's my teacher. But I do feel it's incredibly helpful because what he's saying is that the skills of formal meditation, like concentration exercises and developing vipassana, spending time in retreat or spending hours in a day doing formal meditation, that really is useful. It does have a benefit. But it's like if you're learning a musical instrument, you spend a certain amount of time sitting on the piano just playing your scales, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But you don't do that in order just to play the scales. You do that in order to develop the skills, so then you can play Schubert or Beethoven or or Mozart, Rachmaninoff or whoever. You're learning the skills so you can actually make music, your music. And so that you develop those skills through the formal exercises, but then you can apply them moment by moment. And so if you listen to Lumpur Cha's teachings or read his books, then over and over, the way he's describing things is like keeping track of your aramanas, the arom, the feelings. Just noticing when you're feeling excited, noticing when you're feeling depressed, noticing when someone praises you. They say, oh, that interview was so good. Wow, you are absolutely the tops. That was great. You go, oh. Yeah. No, what's that feeling like when you get praised? As they say in English, the feeling of the cat that got the cream. That kind of, oh yes, I like that. Or when you're criticized, like and you're waiting for them to say, oh, that was a great interview, and they're all kind of busy with the wires and the cameras, and no one's saying anything, and they think, oh, they didn't like my interview, and say, so how did that go? Oh dear, I failed. Oh, they didn't like it. I was useless. That's terrible. I feel awful. What does that feel like? So that you're learning to be mindful of the flow of moods, liking, disliking, being praised, being criticized, gaining, losing, happiness, unhappiness, and throughout the process of the day, whether you're engaged in action, when you're watching how you do things. Do you start very quickly and then get tired and give up? Do you start slowly and carry on to the end? Do you arrive early and set up for yourself and other people, tidy up after everyone else at the end? Do you show up late and expect everyone else to have set it all up for you? Let someone else clean up after you? How do you do it? How do you operate? So you're being observant for your own life. And, oh, look at that. I always expect everyone else to set it up for me. Huh, look at that. I'm 30 years old and I only just noticed that. or yeah, I'm always setting things up for everyone else and I'm always tidying up. Why am I always the last one tidying up at the end? How come it's always me? I've been here for 30 years and I've only just noticed I'm always tidying up after everyone else. Huh, look at that. So that meditation then becomes getting to know your own life, then the people around you, the learning to recognize their characters, learning to be attentive to the group that you're talking to, the group that you work with, the company you're a part of, to be learning to know what's the right amount. Okay, when in terms of the time you spend on something, or the amount of food to eat, or if you spend too much time on video games, then what's your brain like for the next day? Yeah. What's the right amount? Okay, let's say a couple of hours of video games is fine, but if I spend 5 hours or 6 hours, I'm fried for the next day. Okay, so the right amount, the matanyuta, is okay. A couple of hours, that works. With food, with the time you spend with others, the time you spend alone. So these kind of say skills to develop as a well-rounded person, that all comes from watching your mind, being observant, learning to see how things work. So in that respect, meditation never has to stop. And so the exercises of say watching your breath, or doing jongkrom, walking up and down meditation, they help to sharpen the attention. But its main use is working with your kind of partners in the film company, or with your family out on the street, dealing with the other people on the SkyTrain. That is really where we use the practice. And then we realize that, as Luang Por Chah again would say, you can suffer in every posture, therefore you can practice in every posture. Whether you're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down, you can still make problems for yourself. Therefore, you can also solve those problems, even when you're sitting, standing, walking, or lying down.